What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, we'll be chatting with Tony East from Locked On Pacers to take a look at how the Pacers are performing to start this season relative to expectations coming into this year. Tyrese Haliburton leads the NBA in assists per game, but what more does he need to do to take that next leap into stardom as an NBA player? Bennedict Mathurin has been impressive off of the Pacers bench. Does he have a shot at both Sixth Man of the Year and the Rookie of the Year award? All that coming up in just a moment, but first, a quick message from our friends over at Prize Picks. Tonight, I'm taking Luka Doncic to score more than 26.5 points. How about LeBron James to have more than 7.5 rebounds, or maybe Kevin Durant to have less than 6.5 assists? And what about Steph Curry, more than 3.5 three-pointers made? So what is Prize Picks, right? How does it work? Basically, you pick 2 to 6 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projections, you can win up to 25 times back on your money on any entry that you submit. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. That's NBA, NFL, NHL, PGA, you name it, they've got you covered for it over at Prize Picks. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that simple. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Joining us now is Tony East from Locked On Pacers. You can follow on Twitter at TEastNBA. Tony, the Pacers were 8-2 across their last 10 games, and they could have maybe kept that up had they not allowed Ivica Zubac, of all players, to go prime Wilt Chamberlain in their most recent game. 29 recorded rebounds. We're going to talk about the Pacers here in a second, but what happened there?
My goodness, I have no idea. The Pacers, I thought before the season would not be a good rebounding team, and they have been better than I thought. But this game sort of showed why. Clippers had 74 rebounds as a team with Zubac having 29 of them. Miles Turner, for all the great things he's done this year, not a good rebounder. Their best rebounder is Jalen Smith, who is streaky and inconsistent. And Zubac said, screw this. I'm just going to win this game by myself, and grabbed every single Clippers miss it felt like in this game.
Well, the Pacers, minus this most recent little kerfluffle, whatever we'll call it, against the Clippers, the still PG and Kawhi-less Clippers, if you will. I mean, the Pacers have kind of maybe exceeded expectations a little bit. Is that a fair assessment for kind of where they're at right now, Tony?
I would say so. I had them going through the schedule before the season right now. I think 7 wins, and they're at 11. They're over 500, but it's not the raw number of wins, I think, that's showing they're exceeding expectations. It's that, one, they're beating very good teams. They beat New Orleans in this run. They've beaten the Nets twice. They've beaten Toronto in there. They've done really well in the month of November, but and their style has been so impressive. They're top 10 in offense. Tyrese Haliburton is 2 full assists per game ahead of the next guy because he's just throwing it to everyone wide open all the time. And teams literally go zone the second he checks out of the game because his offensive impact is so strong. So I think it's not that they've necessarily won or lost more than everybody thought. It's that they're playing this style that is fun and extremely sustainable, where they have one of the best offensive threats in the league on their team.
Yeah, I mean, we talked before the season about Tyrese Haliburton and his just, he's got this like superstar potential about him because he's a guy that, like you said, leading the NBA by 2 full assists per game at 11.1 per contest to go along with, he's on, a hair under 20 points per night, nearing kind of flirting with that 50-40-90 club, a few percentage points here and there, a couple shots here and there, and he's pretty much right at that point, some really impressive efficiency from him. I mean, has his production to this point of the season kind of, matched or maybe even exceeded your expectations for where he should be at this year?
Yeah, the big thing for me with him coming into the season and how he needed to take a step forward was being more aggressive, right? Last year, he'd have these games with 12 points and 10 assists. The assists are awesome. They're guiding the Pacers offense, but 12 points means guys would kind of sag off or kind of let him pass at times. And he would say after the game, Tyrese Haliburton is such a perfectionist. He would say something to the effect of, I wasn't aggressive enough. I was too passive. I let the defense play me a certain way. So all offseason, he worked on that, finding his shot within the flow of the offense in a way that can still let him be the brilliant passer that he is, but also lets him find his shots. And I thought that would be more of a slow increase in skill for him, and why I thought the Pacers would be much better next year than this year. But he's really figured it out right away, which is why he's just shy of 20 points per game already on that crazy efficiency because he can pull up from anywhere. So it's hard to sag off of him, but he's added a driving game. He's added the shot that some in Indy have coined the tie hook, where it's kind of like a hook shot on the run that he takes. It's kind of weird. It only goes in sometimes, but it's cool and new. And so he's got his own offensive repertoire that he didn't have before on top of the passing. It didn't take away from what he was already really good at. And so maybe it's just my own schedule, but he's kind of ahead of schedule in his development that he became the scorer and passer at the same time already. And I don't see any way that this just goes away. So for the Pacers, they've got a guy or one of their guys of their rebuild because he's already there. He's only 22.
Well, it's still early in his career. They might have another guy who's just part of their rebuild in Bennedict Mathurin, who's just been so impressive to start his NBA career. He's coming off the bench, right? Averaging right at, basically 20 points per night. Off the bench, 60% true shooting. He's doing this as a rookie. Just how impressed with his start to his career have you been?
Yeah, he's insane. We recording this after the Clippers game was unfortunate because it was just the second time all season he's been below 10 points, and rookies can be so shaky. They can have these big games and then drop right back to a bad one depending on the coverage or whatever's going on. But Mathurin has been so consistent, way ahead of rookie consistency, which has been a big part of why he's been so good. But the biggest thing and why his true shooting percentage is ridiculous is he gets to the line a million times a game, no matter who the opponent is. And that is so rare for a rookie, right? That's you saw this. You cover the Rockets, right? He had eight free throw attempts in that game against Houston as the Pacers made this crazy comeback after I think they scored like 8-10 points in the first quarter of that game. He was huge in that game, right? And he does that all the time. And the funniest story about him to me is they had their scrimmages before training camp, and Tyrese Haliburton said that Mathurin was complaining in these scrimmages all the time, like for calls. And Tyrese said, Ben, you're a rookie. You're not going to get these foul calls in the NBA. But he has. He's been able to get into the teeth of the defense and get these foul calls as a rookie. And that's why, even on nights where his shot's off, he gets a bunch of points because he gets the free throws. But he also has a bunch of nights where his shot is on. And that's why he's been so special and such a good scorer in his first year.
Yeah, kind of having that ability as a rookie is such a boon, because rookies often, that's part of like maybe you just roll that in with the rest of the rookie wall is just like there, at some point you're just like looking around like, where are the foul calls, man? And you usually start to get that respect in the second year, but getting it as a rookie is it's a very unique situation. How much of his success do you maybe attribute to Rick Carlisle's decision to have him come off the bench?
I think that's a big part of it. That's a big topic of discussion, obviously, when you have a 20 points per game score coming off the bench as a rookie. Should he start? And Rick has always said, why would we start this guy? Because the starting lineup as constructed has Buddy Hield, who's a scorer in the same role, right? Haliburton, who's going to start at the point guard spot. And then they play a defensive-minded guy at the three, whether that's Aaron Nesmith, Chris Duarte, Andrew Nembhard. Basically, it's just been whoever's healthy. This is too long of an explanation, but what I'm trying to get at is with the second unit, he goes against matchups that he can more easily control. He still plays a ton with Tyrese Haliburton. He gets, better situations for him to have the ball because with the second unit, they don't have as many options who require touches. And he still closes games and he's still playing with the starters all the time. To Rick's point, it's like, what's the point? What is the value the Pacers get by having him start when it takes away something else that's made this team surprising and good? So, yes, I think at some point, no, it's not a secret. Buddy Hield's been on the trade rumors for forever at this point. Maybe he's dealt and that opens up a starting spot. Maybe Mathurin passes someone on the defensive side of the ball and starts. But right now, he's playing great. His stats look awesome. The Pacers are winning. Why change it? There's really no point for the Pacers outside of at some point playing him and Haliburton like a million minutes per game together.
The point for the Pacers is to appease Pacers fans who are upset that Mathurin isn't starting. That's the only point that you can come up with that even holds any weight whatsoever. Is there a world, Tony? I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about, but right, Paolo Banchero missing some time due to injury. Maybe there's a world, right? I think right now you're looking at 1A, 1B in the Rookie of the Year competition between Paolo and Bennedict Mathurin. But at the same time, like, is there a world where Mathurin could be, at the very least, maybe like a finalist for both Rookie of the Year and Sixth Man of the Year if he keeps up this production?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wob put it out there for the first time, but like Ben Gordon as a rookie won Sixth Man of the Year, but not Rookie of the Year, right? So no one's ever won both. Mathurin's got to be in the mix for both, and it's going to be the same discussion it always is for a lot of these big awards where, per game, Banchero's better. I don't think that's a secret, but he's only played 12 games. Mathurin's played 20 now after this Clippers game that just happened. Like, he's got to be in the mix for both, especially if he can maintain around 20 points per game all season with a dynamic role. I mean, no one's figured out the answer to stop him. He's so good at adjusting in games. And I believe this was true coming into today, although he just had 9 points. No one is averaging more points coming off the bench as well. So, that's typically what sixth man of the year is. I believe that is still the case. Someone was hot on his tail. Christian Wood with Dallas was hot on his tail recently. But it's hard for me to think that if the way that's the award's going to be voted and he outpaces Boncaro in games, yeah, he's got a great shot at both, which is crazy to think about.
Last thing for you here, Tony, before we let you go. What's the timetable on Chris Duarte? When can we expect to see him back on the floor?
Great question. Yeah, he was a big story for this team too. Like, he made an all-rookie team last year, and everybody forgets that he's a piece for this young team because of how good Mathurin and Haliburton have been. It sounds like the latest is that he could return on this road trip the Pacers are currently on, which sounds nice, but their road trip is so long, 7 games in a row, the longest road trip for the Pacers since 1986. So that's a long range of time a player could return. Their first game, if that was today, it goes through the next 11 or 12 days through December 9th. So all that to say, while Duarte was struggling, he is a key piece for this young team, and he should be back in the next week or week and a half.
Can Tyrese Haliburton keep his production up and start to take that next leap, that next step into stardom? Is Bennedict Mathurin going to be in the talk for not one, but 2 awards as the season continues on? You're going to have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Pacers. Tony, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Thanks for having me, Jackson.